Welcome back to the channel. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. A lot of conversations will continue to happen on the channel in regards to this topic. Jubilee, let's react to it.
It's not that it's a subhuman.
Who aren't as developed as we are, so they're the third world.
I will still vote for them.
No matter what my candidate does, I'll still vote for them. No matter what my candidate does, I'll still vote for them. I wouldn't go that far. That's insane. That's unhinged. Nobody should be sitting for this. Nobody.
Anybody?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said if Trump came out in a crowd and just started, yelling at people, calling them stupid, or like did something crazy that I wouldn't still vote for him. It would have to be like walk out in Times Square, shoot someone in the face kind of thing. Like it would have to be something outrageous for me to not vote for him right now, and that is only because these are the only two choices I have, which sucks for us as American people. We should have a lot more choice in this. We should have had more debates. We should have had more people involved in the debates. It would take a lot for me not to vote for him just because I care so much about securing our country and my right to own firearms.
So for me, we know Kamala's character, and so even thinking if she does the worst thing ever, would I still vote for her? Yeah, because I know the worst thing that she could do wouldn't even be the best thing that Trump does, right? Like the bars are very different. In addition to that, of course I'm going to vote for her because Trump is such a terrible alternative. I'm afraid to see what our country would look like.
I'm voting for Kamala for pragmatic reasons. January 6th made Trump ineligible in my eyes. He's a traitor. He disrupted 200 years of peaceful transfer of power for his own selfish reasons that he now admits that he lost by a whisker. Sarcastically, according to him.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
No matter what is crazy.
I'll go first again. Like, one of these two people are getting in. Right now, my choice is Kamala Harris. That doesn't mean that anything that she does is going to keep that support. My biggest issue right now is the genocide going on in Gaza, propagated by both the Trump administration and the Biden administration. You could say that prior to October 7th, there was peace going on between Israel and Gaza, as I've heard a lot of Trump supporters say. That's just factually inaccurate, especially with the Abraham Accords, especially with moving the embassy to Jerusalem. These are things that I'm very critical of Trump on, and I'm still having trouble announcing my support for Kamala Harris. It was a big moral decision to even come on the show in support of her. But that's because I don't support her again. I think that Donald Trump is going to be somebody that's far worse for the country than she will be.
So did you know that this is the lowest civilian to combatant death rate of any war in recent history? Did you know that?
Is this going to be a Gaza topic? I'm so ready to go on Gaza. I'm so ready.
That. Because I can't just let your word genocide go because it's not a genocide. If it was a genocide, it would have ended 2 days later and it would have been fine. Everyone would be dead.
We'll have
so
to
it's not
keep
a
it
genocide.
at that, though.
Yeah,
Just for
that's
time's
fine.
sake. But I want to hear, going back to the prompt, you came in because you disagreed. You wouldn't vote for Trump unconditionally.
No, of course. I mean, I think as a moral human being that comes from a place of love with strong core values, I can't just give anyone, carte blanche that no matter what you do, you're going to have my love and support. But from, barring anything crazy like the situation that Joe mentioned, it's pretty much 100%. And actually, I am part of Jewish Voices for Trump, and I really appreciate all of the things that he's done for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel as well. So
the next prompt is, Harris beat Trump in the debate. Will the agreeers please step forward?
Everyone should. If they're objective, every single person should step forward. They're just lying.
We're all looking at you.
I'm happy to see you join us.
No one who should say Harris.
Unfortunately, when I watched the debate, a lot of Republicans were saying that Trump was going to completely obliterate Kamala Harris, and I was one of those people. But I'm the kind of person, I got to be factual and honest, and I can't lie to myself. So let's get the obvious out of the way. It was a little bit bogus against Trump with 1 versus 3. They only fact-checked Trump. They didn't really fact-check Kamala as much as I think they should have.
The moderators were biased, sure. Well, one moderator was biased, so it's more like 2v1. But Donald Trump lies a lot, so I don't really care.
But when one
we don't
candidate
have to
lies
fact check
more,
when we're
don't
telling
have
the
to,
truth
yeah.
and telling facts.
And basically, the only 2 times that they did fact check was we don't murder babies after 9 months, and Haitians aren't
It was more than 2 times.
eating dogs in Ohio.
Well, Kamala Harris perpetuated the myth that Donald Trump said there are fine people on both sides, even though Politico came out and said that this is missing a lot of context.
Do you need to see the video?
When Trump said there are fine people on both sides, he was talking about two kinds of people. One were historians who wanted to keep the Robert E. Lee statue in place, and the other group were people who wanted to tear the statue down. So the Antifa, the left-wing individuals, and the historians. These were the two groups of people he initially were talking about. Now, the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists and the hooligans who came to interrupt, this was an outside group who came to Charlottesville to stir up trouble. So when people say that there are...
I just really have to stop.
So when Donald Trump...
You're referring to them as historians. When we're talking about people who chanted, Jews will not replace us.
But you're...
And neo-Nazi chants that were used in World War II.
He's
you're
talking about
Charlottesville.
What it seems like is historians that were sympathetic to keeping the statues in public view.
And we're talking about a statue of Robert E. Lee, a Civil War general.
I'm glad Mason is here because you're getting stuck on something. This is the lefties' problem. Not everything is like this crazy moral conundrum. Not everybody thinks everything is black and white. He made some interesting points. I think valid points. The exaggeration from Kamala would be, well, I think anything that was directed towards Donald Trump, they wouldn't need to fact check, right? That's up to Donald Trump to fact check. If she said any statistics that were wrong about the country, I think those need a fact check. Did she say any? From the top of my head, I don't think she said any information about the country that needed a fact check, but some information she said about Trump, you could say she needs to fact check, but I don't think they were fact checking Donald Trump for information he said about Kamala. I think they're allowing each other to respond to those. So ultimately, I think the fact checking.
But even the historians that you're referencing, if they were actual historians, wouldn't you want those types of statues in something like a museum or somewhere where people can learn the historical context, not in the public image?
Let's talk about what those historians did. They enslaved your people.
I think we've covered, just so you know, I think we've covered this part. Remember, the prompt is, I think Harris won the
we
debate.
forgot about the
yeah.
prompt already.
Yes, to be honest, I want to extend I have mad respect.
Absolutely.
For
same.
anybody here, any Trump supporter who will stand here in this room and say anything in support of the guy who gave that debate performance. Literally speaking as a Filipino person who for years, we have a play named Dog Eaters on us. It was dog eating and othering of meats were used to other us and to make us feel like some other kind of different, dehumanizing thing because we're eating people's pets. And now they're putting it on Haitians. And now there's bomb threats in Ohio because of this ridiculous thing that he spewed because he got triggered because Kamala talked about how people were walking out of his crowds because he's bored and tired and senile.
And the main reason why I am sitting down is because Donald Trump took too much bait. I think that kind of performance was okay against Biden. And if you guys notice, a lot of the things he said against Kamala, he said against Biden. About the abortion, the baby being killed after it's born, he never should have said that. About a lot of the points that he made against Biden, and he did it against Kamala too. But the thing is, Biden literally just fell apart and quote unquote died on stage, what we saw last time, and that's why they switched him out with Kamala. So I guess Trump I was expecting him to change his playbook. You have to go after her record.
Well, it's hard to go after her record when she's impeccable, right? We have
the only qualified person there.
I mean, impeccable is a stretch, but
prosecutor, an attorney general, a senator, because it's good. All you can do is make the same old. She said it herself, the same old playbook, and that's what we saw. And she.
Who won or who didn't win. I want it to be an even playing field, and I think it should be a fair contest. And I know you guys love Kamala Harris, and you think she has an impeccable record. Kamala. But see,
everybody who freaking fact checks how I say Kamala or Kamala Harris, shut up. I don't care. I'm not gonna lie. I don't care about how you pronounce her name. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, then I'm just pronouncing it. Like, it's the same people with Vivek or Vivek. Like, sometimes I just forget. I don't know her personally. I don't know him personally. I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly sometimes if I just forget. So, yeah, I think Democrats get unhinged about that. Oh my goodness.
CNN has pronounced it 12, 20 times on record.
We're telling you how to.
Just like every other person.
Semantics, you guys. Let's not get stuck. Let's go to policy.
Let's hear the rest of it. Let's go past this and hear the rest of Sheila.
So I think that there have been a lot of things that have been fact-checked by social media influencers and commentators like myself on Ms. Harris's policies and what she said as well. And there are certainly things that could have been fact-checked on that end as well. And I want to set you, I too am an immigrant. My family escaped on the back of a pickup truck from Iran in 1985 while being shot at by border police. I spent a night in the Pakistani deserts. We were caught, and we had to escape, and it took 6 months for my family to come here not speaking English. We left everything behind, started from nothing, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people in it. The reason why I say that is, you know, America is the greatest country on earth, and to erase its history instead of learning from it is what they did in China. Unburdening what has been. Let me just finish. Unburdening what has been and looking forward to what can be is literally what was used by people trying to get rid of the old and bringing in the new world, like China Communist Party.
It's so lazy when now Republicans are equating any action to China. They'll find some way to connect it to China.
Affected by those statues are telling you what it's doing to us.
Correct.
He's the one that suggested to go into a museum.
We're talking a lot about this statue, but we do want to hear about the debate. Let's just switch back to the debate. If we want to talk about the statue again later, we totally can.
Yeah. I don't think either one of them won the debate. I feel like the only people that really lost were, other than them, was the American people. I imagine we can all kind of agree on that. Nothing was really said. Nothing was really, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but nothing ever actually gets done. I think as far as the debate goes, Trump dropped the ball on a couple things. The Medicare or Medicaid conversation or question that he received, he kind of dropped the ball on that one. But other than that, it was just a bunch of zingers and like back and forth and putting your hand up to make sure that the other side knows that you're judging I'm judging you, Trump. Like it was more show than anything. Kamala handled herself. I'll give you that. Like Kamala did a lot better than a lot of people thought she did. I think that's why a lot of people are saying she won because we all. She did better than Biden.
She did better than
anybody
Trump.
that did better than Biden. It's like, hell yeah, we have a winner, guys.
He's so scared to admit that she did better than Trump. He's so scared.
But at the end of the day,
we all agree that was a low bar.
Yeah.
We're gonna reset.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on.
They're not from here, and they came here and they worked very hard to get their residency.
And they're now in the United States. And I think they probably did it because they allowed terrorists. They allowed.
Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now let's get into it.
Our next prompt, it will be played as a video. This is a quote from Trump from the debate.
They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country, and they're now in the United States. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it.
If you agree with that quote, step forward.
Oh, it's just this. Okay. From that quote, at least from what I got personally, was he was talking about the illegal immigrants that aren't being background checked, that are being let in. Personally to me, my grandparents and my mother are immigrants. They're not from here, and they came here and they worked very hard to get their
people more house seats, I'm pretty sure. And I don't want to misspeak.
No,
Hopefully
right.
A little truth bubble will pop up at the bottom. But they're getting house seats.
What the Census Bureau describes as unauthorized immigrants with a residence area included in the resident population. The resident population used for apportionment, which is the process of dividing up the 435 seats in the House of Immigrants. Hold up. What was the point he was making?
Parents don't know how to drive because they're coming from whatever country they're coming from, but every single person that
comes... Did you just say immigrants don't know how to drive?
The people that actually live there are the ones in Colorado, where I'm from. We are the ones that are actually seeing this stuff and being affected by it, whether it's people driving on the road without license plates, insurance, don't know how to drive because they're coming from whatever country they're coming from. But every single person that comes in here illegally is being counted in the census. When you count these people in the census, that's going to give people more house seats, I'm pretty sure. And I don't want to misspeak.
No, you're
Hopefully
right.
a little truth bubble will pop up at the bottom. But they're getting...
What describes as unauthorized immigrants with the residents are included in the resident population. This is for apportionment, which is the process of dividing up the 435 seats. Apportionment. What is apportionment? Define apportionment and government. Apportionment refers to the process of distributing seats in a legislative body among administrative divisions such as states or parties based on factors like population or equal representation. Interesting. Unauthorized immigrants.
House seats, they're getting electoral votes. These things matter when it comes to the election. That's the only thing I care about. I don't care if people are coming here legally and want to live a better life, want to have that American dream. That being said, like, you're taking away...
The number of seats in Congress also determines how many electoral votes a state has in presidential elections.
Things, taxpayer money that all of us as taxpayers are paying that should be going to Americans, should be going to veterans.
My issue with how they're fact checking is you're explaining what it is without fact checking. Well, I guess I always have to be careful when it comes to Trump supporters because they take any little bit of information and go to mile with it. I'm fine with explaining what it is. The problem is when you explain what it is, it insinuates that the theory that is being created is true. And what I mean by that is the theory that we are purposely allowing immigrants to create more seats in the House. Because you explain both those things on how it works and the stuff regarding electoral votes, people are going to read that and see, I was right. They did do this to do this, right? You're not fact-checking the claim. You're fact-checking the explanation on how the process works. But you're not explaining the claim that is being made about a way to use the process. Hopefully that makes sense.
Veterans are, make up, I want to say, less than 8% of the American population, and less than 2% of...
There were 16.7 million veterans in the U.S., 6% of the civilian population ages 18 and older.
Americans join the military and volunteer to join our military forces. And the fact that we have homeless vets should not be a thing. And we're just giving this money to these people that come here illegally, don't play by the same rules.
I see a lot of nods. Do you believe that this is an intentional strategy? You talked about like how it affects the census.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, over 16 million people have come into this country illegally during this administration, and immigration actually is the thing that catapulted me from Democrat to Republican. I'm from Chicago, and as you know, we have the migrant crisis, thousands upon thousands. We're talking 50,000 illegal immigrants that just hit our city, and I actually did vote for Biden. I'll whisper and say that.
You talked about like how it affects the census.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, over 16 million people have come into this country illegally during this administration, and immigration actually is the thing that catapulted me from Democrat to Republican. I'm from Chicago, and as you know, we have the migrant.
Oh, so is this 10 million, is that encounters or people who are in the country? Oh my goodness. This fact check sucks, I'm not gonna lie. How many people are coming into America illegally? Of the unauthorized immigrants. So there's 11 million. Okay. Breaking down the immigration numbers. I'm looking over here. Show that released in the U.S. 2 have been removed or expelled. Biden. Can I get a chart? All these paragraphs. You think I want to read all these paragraphs? Custom and border initial dispositions, releases, transfers to ICE, Title 42 expulsions, Title 8 reparations. Uh, 10.8 to 16.8. So, all right, here. Sorry about this. So there's about 16 million encounters versus people who are actually in the country. Investment in population living in the U.S. illegally. In 2022, 11 million were living in the U.S. of immigrants, of unauthorized immigrants. So maybe that's what he's talking about. But that doesn't really equate how many people came into the country under the Biden administration. That's how many people are already in the country as of 2022. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up.
In crisis, thousands upon thousands. We're talking 50,000 illegal immigrants that just hit our city.
50,000 people seeking asylum have arrived via bus and airplanes from Texas since August 2022. Does not include people who arrive in a Greyhound or independently. At least 17,000 individuals have resettled, and 8,000 have been reunited with sponsors.
And I actually did vote for Biden. I'll whisper and say that, not that proud to admit it now, but I remember when they first turned a school in my area into a migrant shelter, and it was the Wadsworth Elementary School. And they also turned South Shore High School into a migrant shelter as well. When they did that, I remember the protest. I remember going to these community meetings that they have about how they're going to explain to you how immigrants need help. And I remember sitting there as a person who voted for Biden, and I'm just listening to these people, the aldermen, city council members, pro-immigrant groups. They come to lecture us black folk on the south side of Chicago. And they talk to us like we're stupid. These people are from Venezuela. They speak Spanish. They live in poverty. They need help. And that's why this facility in your neighborhood is being turned into a migrant shelter. So it's very frustrating with the Democrats is sort of lecturing this condescending tone that they use against.
What is condescending about talking about immigrants who need help?
You. I don't need to be lectured to about what people need. Black people in Chicago need help.
And he's explaining what's going on. What do you mean lecturing?
Help. Veterans, as you were saying earlier, they need help. Poor people need help. We have a lot of problems in our own community, and I respect people and I understand the passion and ambition behind people who come to this country. But to explain and lecture to me why I have to be quiet and accept it, that's never going to happen.
I don't think that's what they were doing, but all right.
I know that we have more to say, but I'm going to.
The people on my side even talk about Biden's shift to the right when it comes to immigration, more deportations than the Trump administration. That's not something that I'm particularly passionate about. I don't really believe in removing people who are fleeing political persecution or looking for a better life for their families. What I would say to the people that are worried about vetting or worried about who necessarily is in this country is increase the pathway to citizenship. Not only should we be able to vet who these people are, we'll be able to add them and actually fully understand what they're here for, what their motivations are. And if you want to garner those voters, you got to capitulate to those voters. And I think Republicans can do that. A lot of Hispanics that come from there have conservative values. You shouldn't just write them off as people that can't drive or people that are not talented.
No, I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm just saying.
You're saying they might not even be qualified to drive a vehicle. I mean, that's kind of
no, Joe. I just want to really quick. I want to just ask you a real quick question.
Bro, I wanted Mason to finish, bro. Oh my god. Here we go.
Please define what immigrants who are seeking asylum means.
So I'm political persecution, like you were saying, or somebody's going to murder them or whatever it is.
Okay.
I get, like, it could be 100% true. I'm not
So
like.
are those things currently? I'm just asking.
But you're assuming everyone is coming here is like literally being shot at like my family was, or actually. But when you see the videos,
yeah. But what about your family? Let's talk about your family.
So why are we talking about the bipartisan bill where the Republicans had a chance to do something about
So Joe.
There we go. Oh man, it always gets down this road, man. To be fair, it was the Kamala supporters who were going to...
Tried to answer your question. Why are you asking it?
I'm asking it because I have a lot of people in the Filipino-American community who seek asylum during the Marcos regime. I have a lot of different immigrant families, probably like yours in Iran, who looked for asylum during the controversies and the tumult in Iran. And Trump, in his initial presidential election, wanted to ban Muslims from coming to America.
It was not a Muslim ban. It was not
a travel ban.
It was a travel.
You're right. It was Muslim shithole countries, which is what he said.
Just going off what you said, are they shithole countries? Is Haiti or Somalia?
Are you really going to classify?
I'm just asking.
The term "third world" is offensive to me, bro. Because you're talking about you're talking about a subhuman. You're talking about people who aren't as developed as we are, so they're the third world. Give me a break. Some of these people have given you some of the biggest scientific innovations in the world.
So if you're stoning women after they've been raped
in the Bible, bro, not now.
I'm from Iran, and it happens now.
I want to close the loop on Eric's point. Eric, what are you saying that it's the U.S.'s responsibility to take people in who are seeking asylum?
I'm saying that Ronald Reagan said that the United States was a shining city on a hill, right? That's the basis of your guys' philosophy, right?
What are you saying?
I'm saying that this has been and has been forever a country of immigrants.
Why can't they stop at the other countries they stopped at to get here? That is my only point.
Why can't they just go back to where they came from? Is that what you're saying?
Let's go to Zion.
Okay, I'm going to start out with saying that immigration is not my biggest issue. It's not. I think people have a right to come to this country. I think our country was founded off of immigrants, slaves even. But if we want to actually talk about it, right? We can all agree that something at the end of the day does need to be done about immigration, whether it means it becomes more humane, whether it means we have a better vetting process, whether it means any of those things. But what you guys are failing to acknowledge is that the bipartisan bill was presented and they voted no, strictly, genuinely, because they didn't want to give Biden the W on that. That would be fine and all, like cool, whatever, but this isn't a game. This isn't like, you don't get to play with people's lives and where they live and what they're escaping from. You don't know what they're coming from. That ain't none of your business. Honestly, they don't owe you that. If they pass the paperwork and the test or whatever it is, they don't owe you an explanation on why they came here.
So I think it's really funny when Democrats, Kamala Harris supporters bring this up, because when people bring it up, they bring it up as this like big gotcha, like, oh my gosh, and partly, you know, you guys are right, like, okay, why would Republicans, go back on this? So I do understand that part. But my question is, why did it take them to election year, a few months or 6 months before the election, I believe it was 6 months before the election. Now they want to put forth this bill.
Definitely
if the Biden administration and now Kamala Harris wants...
Why didn't you put a fact check here? That would be a perfect time to fact check this. You fact check this claim of when it was made or when it was introduced. That was a perfect opportunity. I don't know. This new fact
I think it's completely legitimate to say, you were in office since 2021, Biden and Kamala. That's when they came in office. You waited until 2024 to put together this Republican bill. And might I just add, since Democrats are...
That's not really a good point. That's not... You're just saying, okay, so what that we did this purely because policy. Like, that's not how it works. I am curious to see when it's gonna got made. I'm
moving on the right on immigration. Does it mean that us Trump supporters were right all along?
If you want to talk about when we were in office, then why is it when Trump was in office in his first 2 years in office, when he had a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, and he had been raging about the immigration bill, and Mexico was going to pay for the wall, remember? Why didn't he do it? The only legislation that he passed was a huge tax cut for billionaires, and he made sure that people with mental illnesses could still get guns.
And when he was presented with
those are literally the only two legislations.
All right. I got to cut you off. Let's hear from Sheila.
So imagine the level of gaslighting that you've let in 16 million people already. They're here, and then.
Okay, so apparently a version of this bill has been introduced to the Senate multiple times. And the most recent time it got introduced to the Senate was February 2024. So.
And you say, and we want a border solution now. They are already here. It has already happened, and now you're claiming to say you want to solve it. They're already here.
And how is it affecting you?
I will tell you, I am a taxpayer, and my taxpayer dollar.
And when in doubt, anything that you don't like, it's taxes, because taxes. Taxes. Taxes can get pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Number one, are going to people who are not paying taxes and are not citizens and came here illegally. Okay, when you come here illegally, you have performed a crime. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I am a physician. I work at the county hospital. These people come literally with maps to come get free health care from the county hospital. They will walk across the border with a map to come get their health care and health services here. They have not contributed into that healthcare system with their taxes.
Why does someone have to contribute?
Wait, you guys are fine. I love
it's not a disagreement. It is not a disagreement of political beliefs. It's a disagreement of your morality. That is a disagreement of morality.
Do not question my morality.
I'm questioning.
Do not question my morality.
Time out. Time out. We cannot include parts where you're yelling over people. Your points will not be heard. Okay? There's a lot of overlap.
Gotcha.
We're going to end this part. Cool.
All right, so I just wanted to make 3 points. The prompt was, agreeing with whether criminals and folks like that were let into the country, right? You all are identifying resource issues, right? And so it's one thing to talk about the folks that are being let in the country and the types and the backgrounds or whatnot. It's another thing to talk about the resources, right? And so to your point where you're saying, the school was taken over, et cetera, right? That's a valid point, and I think that we have to, make sure we have an immigration bill in place that allows for a pathway. And so whether it was the last 9 days of an administration or the first 9 days of the administration, if there's a bill on the table that adds those resources to make sure our border is secure and make sure we have 1,500 more border personnel on the border, then why would that not be the thing that at least solves the issue of securing our border, right? We can talk about the resources and how we're going to do that, right? And how we're going to make sure we take care of people that are here, and if we're going to let more people in, right, how we're going to take care of those folks. But also, this administration isn't the first time where millions of illegal people crossed over the border. It's happened since the beginning of America, and it's continuing to happen because when there's an opportunity to pass something that will work, no one wants to do it because it becomes political instead of actually solving an issue.
So I have something just to bounce off of that. You and her are both correct with everything that you both said, and I completely agree. The issue is, it's like opening the door, letting a bunch of people in, then shutting it and going, hey guys, we don't have enough resources for this. Where do we get the money to do it? And we're all just supposed to be taxed to all hell until everything gets paid for. And that's my biggest issue, as I'm not making millions of dollars every day. You know what I mean? I'm not a millionaire. I do private security contracting, and I work for the rich people, and I go in with MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all these news agencies to these protests where all these issues are happening and nothing's being done. Anything that gets shown that could be crazy or wild to see on the news, certain news agencies aren't going to show you. So if I'm seeing this stuff in person and then I start seeing everything else online on YouTube, Fox News, whatever, CNN, doesn't matter, all I'm seeing is what they're showing me, because I can't just go to every single state, and go to the border, but I'm seeing actual Venezuelans, actual Haitian people, actual Somalians over in Greeley, Colorado, taking over every single job, and they're getting hired through these temp agencies that won't allow them to work full time, which is horrible for them specifically. That's not fair to anybody that came here thinking they're going to get a job and make American money. That's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the American people and the legal immigrants that came here that they can't get those jobs because now it's just taken over by temps.
Our next prompt is, my candidate has contradicted themselves.
Honesty.
Yeah, I'm very critical of Kamala Harris. I honestly don't think she's going to be the best president. I view voting as very harm reductive. So when it comes down to who's going to be in office, it's going to be Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. And I think that my goals are much easier to organize with a Kamala Harris presidency than a Donald Trump. So Kamala Harris, one of my biggest criticisms of her is she ran on many progressive platforms, especially early on in her presidential campaign in 2020 during the primaries. She has not stuck to many of those. She's actually gone to the right on a lot of those issues. She's trying to appeal to Republicans. She's entered Dick Cheney into our camp of support. These are people that I abhor. These are people that I don't think should have the respect of progressives, and she's trying to rally us all in against Donald Trump.
I really am happy that you did mention that, because the media portrays it like, yeah, we have more Republicans on our side, Republicans who are supporting Democrats, but you're like, wait, these aren't the kind of Republicans I would like to be on our side. So I do think that's kind of nice not to just kind of have that like clickbait, oh, look, you know, like a token.
Same on both sides.
Same on both sides.
Well, I'll clarify, I don't want any Republicans on my side, I'm being honest. So,
Seriously, like, y'all can keep Dick Cheney. Keep Dick Cheney over there, please. Please, keep him.
I feel like he definitely has his way, and I feel like we can go back and everybody has said one thing that they've changed now, you know, and they obviously they're just like people like us. They're going to change and evolve, and their views and based on the life experiences, at least from what this country or what they go through, they're going to change. And I'm sure you can go back and you can look at things that he said that he has completely changed his stance on now. Like almost every single politician, Republican and Democrat, have said, you know, homophobic or racist things. Every single one.
Not every single one, babe.
I think the biggest one, obviously, is going to be abortion. Because for me, it's kind of like, I am pro-life, but I do respect people's ability to have it done themselves. I've always said, if they want to have an abortion, let them do it. I am pro-life for myself and for my family, or I am conservative values and principles. So first, to kind of being like, I'm going to appoint Supreme Court justices to redo Roe v. Wade or send it back to the states. And then to do this flip of, oh, I think he was interviewed about the heartbeat bill. And first he was kind of like, no, that's not long enough. And then the next day he said, wait, no, I agree with the 6 weeks, because the Republicans got mad that he went back on what he said about abortion. So it is kind of annoying.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I don't believe Kamala has contradicted herself. Her principles have remained the same. She has always said secure borders, legal pathways to immigration. She's always said pro-choice. She's always, you know, been consistent with her opportunity economy, where we build the middle class. And so, I mean, I think that if anything, you know, her policies are different, then that's an evolution, right? Like, it's an evolution of the times that we're in. It's an evolution of changing circumstances. It's an evolution of changing demographics and what people want and need and all of that stuff. But as far as her principles and her platform, it's remained the same.
I feel the same way. I think that, you know, when you hire a CEO for a company, and let's think of America as a major company, you know, the company has different needs at different times. That's why sometimes you bring in different CEOs, because of their strengths or their connections or their ability to make change in a certain sector. And so I believe that, you know, America is a growing organism and is like a, you know, a human in that sense, or a company in that sense, and it's going to require different decisions at different times. And so that's why I think that, you know, you have to.
I don't think I'm gonna get much out of my candidates contradict themselves. Maybe. Trump is more extreme to the right than Kamala's to the left. There are more policies on the other side that I agree. I'm just running out of time, and I've been sitting on this computer for a while, so I'm probably gonna cut this video short.
Because there are security issues, or, you know, it's, you know, being able to.
For sure. That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, thanks. All right, our next prompt is, there are policies on the other side that I agree with. Agreeers, step forward.
I certainly don't agree that guns should be taken. Not that any Democrat has ever said that, but I think that's sort of like what, you know, Republicans think, and I don't believe on it, and I don't think most Democrats believe we are taking guns or even completely banning all guns, because there are security issues, or, you know, it's, you know, being able to, you know, use them and, you know, recreationally, et cetera. So I don't believe in that. And again, I don't think Democrats are saying that, but that's what we're portrayed as.
I agree with what the Biden administration, that they put in the PACT Act, I think that's great for veterans. That's my main shtick is like we need to do more for vets. There's not enough stuff being done for veterans that needs to be done, and at some point we need to hit the pause button and say, screw everybody else. We need to fix America. We need to lock the doors, figure everything out, get everybody, up and ready, and then start opening the doors, letting people in. But
I heard that Biden was really good with labor. I think the NLRB, don't quote me on that, I think that's what it's called, but they said he was doing a lot of good things for labor and stuff. So even when I was like, okay, do I really want to move from Biden to Trump, I had to really think about it. But that was one thing that I said, okay, I'll give Biden something because I like to give credit where credit is due. Like, okay, that was a good thing. I wish they talked more about that and maybe it would have helped him before he dropped out.
As far as for me, I disagree almost entirely with the Republican Party platform, and I disagree with the majority of the Democrat Party platform. I think both parties really seek to protect capital interests and protect wealthy. So those are some things I really would disagree about because I care more about the American people, especially the working class. So we probably have a lot of similarities there. But when it comes to Republican policies, I really think Project Warp Speed was great, especially to make sure that we do get some sort of infrastructure protecting from the spread of COVID. So getting vaccines in record time was very impressive that I do give Trump the credit to. Don't know how much y'all might like that, but I do give him the credit.
Cool. Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I just have trouble understanding sometimes what the policy is on the other side. Like up until very recently, Vice President Harris's website was selling T-shirts and actually had no policies written on it. And so when asked about her policies, like when they asked, are Americans better off now than they were 4 years ago, she'll just punt the question and start answering something else. So for me, I would like to know what the policies are like actually. And again, a lot of the stuff that she had said were her policies, now she's come over to the right a little bit, which I think is a good thing. I think.
So she does have policies, but they're more right-leaning policies than prior. So can you all Trump supporters just stop lying? She obviously has policies. It's just Trump has brainwashed y'all.
I think a lot of people should be coming over to the right. But I would like to have a list. I would like to know exactly, and actually they just polled American people. 70-something% of people, this was yesterday, on both sides said they're confused about what Vice President Harris's policies are. So on both sides. And so I would, before saying, do I agree or do I not agree, what are the policies?
I looked before we even started this. They're there. I mean, the policies are on there, right? She's talking about expanding the child tax credit. She's talking about getting the border plan back on track. She's talking about the opportunity economy. She's talking about supporting business owners. She's talking about making sure we have a middle class, right? I feel like most of us are probably, not to make an assumption, are probably in the middle class. She's talking about helping us to elevate us, right? She's talking about taxing people that make like millions of dollars, right? And making sure people that make $400,000 and below their taxes aren't increased. And so it's there, and I think it would be beneficial if people did read it, right? Because there are good things in there, whether you agree with the candidate or not. She's trying to make sure that we everyday folks are able to have and live and sustain ourselves. And so
okay, so on her website there is a policy to give first-time home owners and first-time home buyers $25,000, and I would assume you guys would think that's a good thing, right? The point I would like to make is a lot of Democrats, they prop this up as a really good thing. Like, look at all the money she's going to give to these people. First of all, where is this money going to come from? That's a fair question. Secondly, these are for first-time home owners and first-time home buyers. In 2008, between 2008 and 2011, the housing crisis affected 53% of black people. These are people who already have a house. And these people were affected by
Black people were disproportionately impacted by the Great Recession. They were hurt more by subprime mortgages, blah, blah. Fair enough.
Predatory lending. These are for first-time home owners and first-time home buyers. In 2008, between 2008 and 2011, the housing crisis affected 53% of black people. These are people who already have a house. And these people were affected by predatory lending from banks. We're talking BMO Harris, we're talking Wells Fargo, and we're talking Bank of America. These people were really affected during the housing crisis of 2008 to 2011. So what will Kamala do to help those people? Because they already have a house. So I think that a lot of times when you throw out these flattery things, it sounds nice, but when you think about it, it really doesn't benefit the people that actually need help.
Also
remember during the housing crisis, Barack Obama, he bailed out the big banks and the airlines.
Yeah, very
and we
critical
also
of that.
have to remember that Kamala Harris did not take on the big banks. This is something that she pushes, and I admire that there are people who, they talk about it and they bring it up like, look at this strong black woman taking on the bank. Sorry, guys, she didn't do it. What she did was she brought them before the Senate, but she didn't prosecute them and she didn't send anyone to jail. Any of these big bank CEOs who were screwing over majority black people and scamming them on these loans. But when Donald Trump, when he first came to office, the banks, for the first time, their interest rate went down to 2.9%, and that's for over 30 years on home loans. So people who had a hard time during the housing crisis, the crash back then, they will benefit from that. So that's something that I really think we have to remember when it comes to Trump and when it comes to Kamala, like who's really putting money in your pocket.
Yeah, and I think that was a great criticism, especially of Kamala Harris, who's endorsed by a lot of Wall Street, endorsed by a lot of corporate interests. But the alternative to that is not Donald Trump. And the reason why I'm on the Kamala side isn't because, again, I believe in everything about Kamala Harris. I'm very critical, but I do recognize if I'm comparing two people, one of which is going to be the executive of the country, I want the person that is going to be more comfortable for the working class. Not that either of them are going to be amazing for the working class, but when Donald Trump passes something like the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, might sound good in the title, might sound good when he talks about the taxes that were reduced for the working class. Those taxes are set to expire in 2027. And all of the gains that are happening for the people that are in the 1% are still going to continue.
The last prompt is, no matter who wins, we'll be okay.
I have some conditions, the reason why I stood up. Me personally, I'm going to be okay. Yes, I'm disabled, but I am a white dude. I present very sit-hes. I'm somebody that, regardless of who's going to come in, I'm going to have a pretty okay time being able to adjust to that. As far as like the rest of the country, I think there's a lot of people in marginalized groups that are going to be heavily affected by a Trump administration. And even a Kamala Harris administration, there's still going to be a lot of problems that we need to really fight for.
So even if Kamala is elected, she has a horrific record, and we're still here now. So I think that it won't be the way I want them to be, but this idea that the world's going to explode, I don't think that's going to happen. I think I'll just be very disappointed that someone like her won, but I don't think democracy or, the world's going to completely go away.
I agree. As a cisgendered white male, I don't think it's as crazy as everybody makes it out to be. I think everybody picks their own tribes that they want to be a part of, and everybody wants to, argue their point, and this, that, and the other. But I think the government, a lot of Americans think the government is not where it needs to be. They think that it's corrupt, and that I don't think that's going to change unless something crazy happens. But even then, as Americans, we are all very privileged to be here. And I don't think the world's going to end, because everything's got to keep going. Everybody's got to get their Coca-Cola, candy, whatever it is. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I feel like I've been affected personally. It was weird for me to see that, everyone talks about them, and obviously they're real people, but it's really weird to see that it affects your own lives. COVID was the first thing where it's like, wow, these people's decisions really do touch everybody's lives. So I feel that it's very important that it made me have that self-awareness and realization that these people's decisions and where we put these people is going to affect our daily lives, in a sense. And that makes me feel like, well, then there is some importance, and we could be okay or not be okay based on who's there and who leads us or who makes those decisions or who is in that room at that given time when something is voted for. That's all very important, and those things do change our lives.
So for me, it's two different buckets. It's domestic policy and it's foreign policy. And as somebody who's come first generation myself from Iran and also who has family living in Israel, I just feel like this appeasement policy of the left, whether it was Obama or whether it was the Biden-Harris administration, the appeasement policy of the Middle East does not work. Since the last 3.5 years, by either direct payments or removing sanctions on Iran, Iran has been enriched by $150 billion, which is fueling all of these proxy wars, whether it's Hamas or the Houthis or Hezbollah in the north, and is causing real life death on both sides, right? So I feel like this appeasement foreign policy thing is absolutely a disaster, and that's one of the main reasons why I don't think we will be okay, because it is going to affect American lives. If there is a war there, which we've inched towards many times, it will be Americans. It will be real ground boots on the ground. Domestically, economically, I think that clearly we're not better off right now than we were 4 years ago, and I think these liberal policies.
All right, that's all I got for today. Shout out Jubilee with another interesting video. And that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed. You have a good one. Take care and peace.